Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alexi, and today I have a special guest, Anssi Kippo of astia-studio. Anssi Kippo is platinum-selling music producer from Finnish city Lappeenranta, who worked with such great musicians as Children of Bodom, Ensiferum, Stamina, and more. I am a huge fan of Children of Bodom and Alexi Laiho. And to me it's a huge honor and huge pleasure to have Anssi Kippo on my channel today. Thank you so much, Anssi, for making this interview.
Hi Alexei, and thank you for having me.
So my first question is, how you became a sound engineer?
I started sound engineering back in 1993, and at first I just wanted to make my own demos using a 8-track tape machine. And then things got a little bit out of hand because in my hometown there was no other studio at the time. And all the local bands, which we had like, 100 or so in a small village, they all wanted to make a demo tape with me. And I started recording them and noticed that, hey, I have these cool ideas which improve the song, they improve the final result when we do these small changes. And things kind of escalated from there. I started astia-studio company back in 1994, and I've been sound engineering, 28 years.
My second question is, do you use virtual guitar amps in production of guitars for famous bands like Children of Bodom and Ensiferum, or real amps only?
I use real amps only. If you have ever driven a horse or maybe a sports car, why bother when it's being modeled very nicely on PlayStation 3 or maybe PlayStation 4 or whatever Xbox it is? It quite does not compare. The real thing is a real thing, and why would you settle for a kind of cheap copy modeling of it? I only recommend using real amps, and we've been using real amps with Children of Bodom and Ensiferum on all the recordings. We never even thought about having a virtual amp at the session.
My next question is, what guitar amps Alexi Laiho used on recording of Children of Bodom's Hatebreeder album?
On Something Wild, we used a PV EVH 5150 first Mark 1. It had the United States power supply system. It was 110 volts, and to us it sounded awesome. For the second album, Alexi and Alexander, the guitar players, they loved Finnish metal band called Stone. And Stone used Lee Jackson Perfect Connection preamp, and it works perfectly with the pickups on their guitars, or it worked perfectly with the pickups on their guitars. So, if my memory serves me right, we had the Lee Jackson Perfect Connection preamp connected to the Lee Jackson Perfect Connection power amp for Hatebreeder album.
My next question is, what mics did you use for recording Alexi Laiho's vocals and guitars? Any special techniques?
On the first album, I think I used Neumann U87 or 89 for Alexi Laiho's vocals. On Hatebreeder, I think it was AKG's some tube microphone, can't recall exactly. And on the Hate Crew Death Roll, we had Neumann U67 tube amp from the tube microphone from the 60s, which I love. It's like the perfect vocal microphone, on my opinion. As for the guitar, I experimented at some points with multiple microphones, but we always went back to using just one microphone, because if you have a great guitar sound when you stand next to the amplifier and you are playing and you love what you hear, then multiple microphones will cause you a problem called phase cancellation. And you just adjust one microphone tiny bit louder or more quiet, and it changes the whole frequency spectrum of the sound, which I don't recommend. That's why most sessions that I've done, and especially nowadays, this is the only way I do it. I have one microphone, half a meter away from the speaker, and that's it. No special tricks, no trickery, no plugins, just the real stuff.
My next question is it possible to recreate Alexi's guitar tone by using virtual guitar amps?
I don't think so. you'd have to be Alexi, and still with the virtual amp it would be so and so. When you talk about only the frequency spectrum, what the ear hears, we can match it, but once those frequencies match, it still lacks some elements. It's kind of like, let's recreate the whole environment and only use, the only thing which we would be using would be the temperature. It would be lacking the moisture, the pressure, daylight, is it snowing, how windy it is. There are many factors, and that's why I do not think it's possible, not during our lifetime anyway.
My next question is, what tips can you give to make your guitar tone sound unique and stand out from the others?
That's a very good question. If you are using plugins or virtual amps, I don't think it's possible. There's no way you can make that something unique and special. What you need is a tube amplifier and one microphone in front of it, and first you need to make it sound as awesome as possible without any microphones, without any compressors or anything like that. Just to kind of plug your guitar directly in and learn to play aggressively, because you can't play you can't create aggressiveness to sound. It must come from the musician, and that's what Alexi was awesome.
My next question is, what is your opinion on using drums samples in metal drums production?
Well, I've been using drum samples, I don't know, maybe a decade or even more. Nowadays I don't use them, and the point is, I am pro real and genuine, and I'm against fake. And imagine if you are a drummer and you rehearse your whole life to get your groove and your kind of the playing style correct, and you spend a lot of money on your drums and on the drum heads. You go to a studio, you record the drums, and then all the drums are replaced. All the timing is being edited to grid, and why bother even rehearsing? Why bother buying the drums? Why even bother playing? Because that's as far from being a musician as it can be. And maybe it's okay for some genres, but then again, I've been accused to, you're using samples. Well, I'm not using samples, I'm recording on tape, and there are no samples on my productions. It sounds like there are samples, but it's all about how you engineer the sound. You can still keep the energy of the hit and make it sound a little bit like samples. And I think it fits perfectly to music. But then again, I dare you, try to make a recording and especially mixing without drum samples. I dare you.
My next question is, what makes Finnish metal production so special from other European metal sound?
Back in the 90s, in Finland we had lots of awesome engineers, and especially in metal genre, and I think it kind of escalated from there, because when you have the correct engineer, then you can have a great quality of recordings. Of course, naturally the bands were very good and skilled, and they spent a lot of time at the rehearsal place to get their playing correct, and they all had their tone and their sound kind of tweaked to perfection. And then they arrived to studio and we just captured what we heard. That's very opposite to the situation nowadays, when people don't go to the rehearsal place, they don't spend time there. They are using the virtual amps, and they even the worst possible scenario would be to record to a click track, only to a click track. Bass recorded to click, drums recorded to click, guitars recorded to click, and then you just kind of hope it will be something good during the mixing. Not recommended. But yeah, I don't know, maybe there's something special in the Finnish water.
My next question is, what advice can you give on getting metal clients for home studio producers?
That's a tough one, because you have to stand out. And then again, how can you stand out when you use the same slate plugin, same drum samples, same virtual amps, the same Kemper profiles? It's not virtually, but it's literally impossible to stand out if you use the kind of plugin setup. If you want to stand out, analog equipment, that gets my highest recommendation, because then you really need to know what you're doing. and that kind of can keep the recorded quality as high as possible without degrading it. Because more plugins you add, more the sound gets worse. Frequencies may get right, the dynamics may get narrowed, but the sound gets worse, unfortunately. So be different. For example, I've had lots of studio trainees from all over the world, naturally from Finland, but then from Germany, from Singapore, from Holland, and they all have told me that, dude, you are breaking every single rule that our teachers at the school taught us. And I'm like, hey, rules are meant to be broken, and if you only play by the rules, kind of like use only the XY miking and all that kind of generic stuff, you're not going to stand out. You need to do things differently. Think outside the box and kind of find your own way and break all the rules, especially in the audio handbook.
And my final question is, after having such a big experience in sound production, are you planning to release some mixing metal production course?
At the moment, I'm not planning to release any kind of mixing tutorials or anything like that, because mixing to me nowadays is like, I can easily mix like 4 songs in one day, even 7 songs in one day. And it's kind of, the less you do, the better it sounds. But you have to kind of fix the source. You have to fix the source, and you need to capture it as genuine and as real as possible. And for example, I write a blog. My blog has up to 5,000 weekly readers, and there I share a lot of stuff that I do and kind of how I do things. And the sound source is always the most important. And after that, it's downhill from there. And the more you tweak, the worse it sounds. Every mixing engineer knows that, oh, at the evening it sounded so cool, and in the morning it sounds like crap. And to avoid that, the less you do, the better it sounds. I have some kind of blog posts where I kind of give some hints on how to get it done correctly, but the course, I don't think so. For the Finnish audience, we have lots of courses, and we have like weekend happenings and that kind of stuff, but unfortunately at the moment it's only for the Finnish engineers and Finnish musicians.
Thank you so much, Anssi, for such a great interview. It's a huge honor and huge pleasure to talk to you.
Dear Alexei, thank you very much for the interview. It was a pleasure. Take care. All the very best.
Please don't forget to check out astia-studio's website to know more about Anssi Kippo and his amazing studio in Lappeenranta, Finland. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.